I want to introduce Evan Brown, member of Black Lives Matter Springfield Faith Coalition for the Common Good, but not representing, but just here to talk to us about the murder of Sonya Massey recently from the police. Evan, thank you for coming in. How are you doing today?
For sure. I'm all right. Lots of emotions.
I think most of the nation, the world was aware. Everything this past month has been insane between all the election stuff, and then Gaza is still going on, so I think, it was, about a week ago, they released the video and people become aware because it's just horrific. Can you just talk us through what was going on in the community right after it happened, and then walk us through how things kind of got released?
Absolutely. So the murder was on July 6th. And it happened in Springfield. We have these weird little townships sort of, or little cities within our city. It's strange. And there's 5 or 6 of them.
And
they all have their own, not even a ward. No, they are townships within the city limits of Springfield.
Okay.
Now, this specific neighborhood that Sonya lived in is an unincorporated area. So basically it's dead center in the middle of Springfield pretty much. But county sheriffs respond to calls typically there.
I think we're even pointing to the fact that this is unincorporated and then the county sheriffs respond. This is not when they say a community policing force, this is not that. This is directly officers that do not know anybody in the community. They come in and
Yeah. And to that point, a lot of times they are hired they're from rural towns outside of Springfield and towns of 200, 300, 500 people. They've never interacted with a black person maybe in their life outside of their job. So there's that. But so basically, the immediate aftermath was there. It seemed the next day there was a lot of talk on there's some Facebook groups and stuff here that sort of monitor the police and do better journalism than a lot of our local news stations. We have a Sinclair station here. We have a paper that was bought out by USA Today years ago. So the local journalism scene is grim as fuck. So there was basically no reporting on, they just did stenography for the cops. And it was, officer involved shooting. There was no clear details of what happened. And they were framing initially the first day, there was no one really reporting on it even. It was just there was radio scanner activity where the people at the hospital and others, which I assume to be police, were, claiming it was a self-inflicted or questioning if it was a self-inflicted gun wound. And so really when it started to pick up was 2 days later, the coroner, Jim Allman, who's a Republican, but he did his job and he released a press statement saying that the gunshot was not self-inflicted. So from there, everyone, the people that weren't really knowing what was going on, a lot of us, it was clear right there what happened. So, we started that about 6 days after the initial incident, the murder. We had an organized protest by Intricate Minds, Tierra Standage. She put together a rally outside of the Sangamon County Courthouse, the county complex, basically. And that week, a little public pressure had started to build. And I really mean a little, because there was still zero journalism, zero reporting on what was really going on. None. Now at this rally on that Friday, this would have been 6 days after the murder. There was 150, 200 people. So decent turnout for Springfield on kind of short notice without hardly anyone knowing. And there was journalists there that I yelled at. The cops tried to do a cover up and they were, obfuscating what was going on. And no one was really reporting on it. So there was a lot of organized protests. That first day was Friday, and then actually that Friday night too. And then the next week, twice a day, every day, we were outside the county building. And sometimes there's only maybe a dozen of us, but Sonia's family was with us there every time. Her cousins, who, by the way, according to Mrs. Haley from the local NAACP chapter, when she showed up to Sonia's house that morning, her cousins were cleaning up the crime scene. The county offered no support to her family. Yeah. And so, yeah, a lot of this stuff, man, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty grim. And if I get emotional, I know you guys are empathetic to that. But,
yeah, man. Yeah. No.
yeah. So, just really disgusting response from the first response is disgusting from, the county, the sheriff's building office. So we protested, and the mayor didn't make really a statement. There was no public leadership really at all. We have a Republican mayor, Misty Busher. She just won the last election, 13,000 votes to 12,000 votes. She was a banker who became not even raised here, raised in one of these little outside communities, became a banker, became the city treasurer, became the mayor. She's inept at best, like really just not a leader. And so on that note, the Illinois State Police was conducting this investigation. So we were putting the pressure on the Illinois State Police for them to release the footage, the body cam footage, to be transparent as fast as possible and to lock up the dude because he was on paid leave. They saw the body cam footage and put his ass on paid leave for almost 2 weeks. So while we're out there protesting for justice, dude was, at home playing video games with his kid, whatever. Just, living his best life. And, that's all the FOP. And we'll talk more about the FOP here in a little bit.
Yeah.
But to basically keep back on the timeline, we protested to get this footage out. It took 12 days for maybe 8 days for them to make a statement saying we've wrapped up the investigation. We're taking him into custody. He's been fired from the sheriff's department. Body cam footage will be released in 4 or 5 days. We're showing the family the footage. Public footage is coming out Monday. And let me backtrack a second and say that first rally we did, that first Friday, there was national news coverage. ABC and NBC News National did just a little blurb, a little write-up. But then it died off. And the whole next week when we were protesting, there wasn't really shit. But as soon as they charged him with first-degree murder, and I'm forgetting the other 2 charges, but misconduct and unlawful use of a firearm, maybe, he got hit with 3 charges. But first-degree murder, which... this community, I'm sure Marcus too, that's like, imagine how, unambiguous the footage was for him to be charged with that.
And this is where, for my perspective, and I think from the public outside of Springfield, I become aware, and it is awareness of, they released the video and the guy's already fired and, arrested. Charged. Or charged, yeah. And
denied pretrial release too by the state's attorney and the judge.
Denied bail. This is a man, violent crime, has access to firearms, no bail, just like anybody. I was like, I was like, holy shit, everything has to play out. But this, I do agree, that is something that I do wonder now of when they had fired, charged, and then release a statement saying, what was the response as far as the protest? Was it kept up, or was it say, hey, we'll take the pressure off, you just need to hold your word or we'll be back?
Oh, this guy being charged is just barely the tip of the iceberg for what we're looking for in terms of justice. Him being charged and sentenced to life is the tip of the iceberg, truly. For us that lived here, I could go into the history now of Springfield. It is an incredibly segregated, racist city, especially so. And I mean, we were site to one of the worst race riots in American history in 1908. And I just want to maybe mention this now, but one of Sonia's cousins posted, one of the men killed in the 1908 race riot was a man who made shoes for Abraham Lincoln, a successful businessman in Springfield. For those of you who don't know, we're the hometown of Abe Lincoln, the ultimate deity of justice, God's favorite moderate. It's really shameful. But anyways, her ancestor is William K. Donegan, Sonya. She's related to someone who was killed in the 1908 race riot.
Jesus Christ. So
this shit is really just too crazy for us. Like it's so bad. But yeah, when dude basically the sheriff, the elected official, he's gonna 100% need to resign. He's already released a statement saying he won't. And I could talk about him too, but to focus on your question, we want anyone involved in the lie that she killed herself or that was obfuscating information, they need to be held accountable. Our public officials who have shown completely inept leadership, and Let me just go in on that for a second. The mayor waited until an hour after the body cam footage was released to the public to make a statement. And it was a 3-minute robotic teleprompter. Bro, when I tell you it was the most shameful, this is radicalizing like normies here.
Yeah.
Like that's how bad the response has been.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how egregious the act itself was too. But and I just want to say that before they released the body cam footage, I was with one of the organizers who saw the footage with the family. And it was I was with her immediately afterwards. And she was so traumatized.
Yeah.
And she just to see that and just to be there and feel the pain, man. We are a deeply hurting community. And a lot of people, there's a lot of potential disagreement about where to go forward, but we're all in alignment that we have a long legacy of organizing here. The NAACP was founded, not here, but in New York City, as a direct result of the 1908 Springfield race riot. If you go to the NAACP website, if you go to their history, it's the first line. So we have a legacy of, proud organizing and nonviolence. And so we're really trying to move that way. We're trying to flip the county board. We're trying to flip the city council. We're trying to flip the mayor seat because few, if any of them, have shown any acceptable leadership. It's been disgraceful, truly. The local journalist response, disgraceful. Our elected officials, disgraceful. Some people in the community, this dude's own family. I mean, I'll just say right now, his granny-in-law has to be a hog. Wrote an op-ed in the Muddy River News yesterday saying, what are you guys protesting for? And I'm actually the smartest person and he did nothing wrong. So, there is still, even as unambiguous as what happened was, and as like hurt as the majority of the community is, the response still from business leaders, etc., has been completely embarrassing and shameful. So we're organizing to just, politically, flip seats and stuff and get engaged, but also to, kind of try to change the consciousness here. Because, man, it's fried.
After the video was released, and it's like one of those things where there's so many very American-specific, tragic, just violent events. And especially we're just talking about whether it is from school shootings or random mass shootings to, these targeted and racist attacks like Ahmaud Arbery, and then the police violence where that's where with George Floyd, there was no tape to release, right? These are people who videotaped it and it was immediately shown to the world. And in this scenario, and like when the tapes release, the same thing with me and any of the groups of black friends and my family, me just having fear for my like bigger and louder, more obnoxious brother, and him just going through life, and then setting in of the pain of like communities that get torn apart. Yeah. And yeah. After the video gets released and we continue on the cycle of reacting to trauma, what is kind of the response that the community saw? Was there any change in, momentum, and what were some of the changes you saw on the ground?
I would say for sure on the positive side, definitely the most engaged any of us have ever been inclined to be. And I mean, how could you not, right? Like this, we can't let Sonya's life just be taken like this. Like we really have to make the most of this awful, awful situation, truly, and change this place. We have to. And, and trying to, combine that with grieving and all that it's difficult, but I'm really proud. We have all the protests were led by Black women, of course, right? They really carried us. So, there's a lot more organizing and calls to action that will be pushing going forth, and people running for seats, true, allies and progressives, I know that term is a little, negative connotation right now. But you know, we're talking about Springfield, Illinois here. You know,
well, and we're talking about the United States in the year of our Lord 2024. We could dream about where we could be, but we're at where we're at. You know, and you've got to engage with the community how we can.
True, and thanks for acknowledging that. Yeah. But also talk about the negative aspect, bro. There was a lot of fucking fear mongering, and you know, oh man, can you imagine all the white grannies? So let me just talk about that for a second. One of these little townships inside of the city limits of Springfield is called Southern View, one of the bigger ones, and they have a notoriously nasty police department. I personally know overt racists that have served on this police force. Their damn police chief went door to door prior to the body cam footage being released and saying we have intel that it was, first of all, hella fucking typos, the worst type shit you've ever seen, but it was real. It had the letterhead and everything confirmed. And they passed it out to all residents that we have intel there's going to be riots and looting and all this shit, of course, right? And you know, on Facebook, they're busting in people just like they did back in Ferguson, dude. Same bullshit. Yeah. So you know, all these racist tropes, and you know, I mean, dude, even the day of the body cam footage being released, true story, honest to God, I walked in a gas station on the way to the rally we were having at the NAACP, and there was a sheriff's deputy, and he was talking to the employees, and it's just a bunch of old grannies and shit, you know, at the gas station, whatever. And they were all like, "Oh, well, it could get bad. It could." I walk in, and I could tell what they're talking about. It might get bad. It might get bad. And I straight up just loud as fuck said, "It already got bad. It got bad when your boy killed that woman." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he wouldn't even look at me. Walked out in shame. And then, of course, you know, whatever. The sheriffs. I'm sure you and the rest of Chad know sheriffs are the most lawless, worst of all the police forces in America. They're the worst.
Well, and this is where the thing too is that like the sheriff and the police departments are usually delineated, but operate on over the similar jurisdiction.
Oh, 100% overlapping jurisdiction. And it's like, why? And dude, in Springfield, we have Shatria, an amazing organizer here who operates a Garvey Tubman house where they do children education, all sorts of amazing stuff. But she made a post on Facebook, and she was like, "Can we start counting? Can we list all the police agencies that we have here in Springfield?" Mm-hmm. There's over 25 if you include, because we have FBI office here, and we have task force with ATF and all sorts of federal shit. But we have the state's capital is here, so you have the Secretary of State Police and the Capitol Police, and you know it's just 20 plus agencies policing us. We're
I mean, I live in the DMV. You know what I'm saying? It's like trust me, a lot of policing agents. I know, but honestly, most communities, right? It's because like Springfield isn't special. You know, the NYPD has field offices in like Israel,
Mexico.
You know, like some of these policing forces are international cops, and there's all types of other little things to include agency-specific policing forces. Like Steve Bannon, for example, got caught up with the Postal Service, their policing force. You know, I guess hashtag not all cops, but you know what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, there are cops everywhere. And people need to actually start understanding and just listing it out. Because if you never asked yourself that question, you're going to be terrified at the answer, but we still need to know.
Totally. And that, to go off that, a big, you know, at least for me, part of my messaging to my people I've been talking with and, you know, posts I've been making or whatever is about, you know, I stop talking about reform, stop talking about training, stop talking about any of that bullshit. We need to cut their budgets. We'll start there. And I think, you know, I am a descendant of John Brown. So my aspirations for what I really want to do with the police perhaps are grander. But, you know, I also operate in this, I didn't fall off the coconut tree, you know. I do have to, you know, work within the confines of what is feasible and what I can get the majority of the community to agree with. Because that is where we have to do. Yeah. And that is, we live in a democracy, you know, look and ask. So that is it. So that is a major conversation, is the cutting the budgets. And, you know, people will just start freaking out when you say that. But it is, you know, conversations we're having. And I've been just talking to people at the grocery store, the dispensary, at walking through the park. I've been just stopping people and asking them, yo, what do you think? You know, wouldn't this be doper if like this sidewalk was fixed and we had like less police? or like, we've replaced all our lead water lines in our schools, with like new water lines and shit. So our kids don't have lead brains, and 100% people are in agreement. The people I talk to in person. I mean, I've even talked like security guards and shit, people who are adjacent cops, and they're like, yeah, that sounds cool, actually. So it's really, I think, I'm on, a lot of us community members. And if you're like a outgoing, confident person and you want things to change, this is an opportunity for us here to have those conversations and start to shift the public perception.
As far as like organizing and like coming to a broader sense of things, there are times, and sadly in our system, it's going to come after tragedy, where people start actually realizing what is this system designed to do. And, in these situations, then the myriad.
She called them for help.
She called it like, that's like where.
And if you watch the footage, he was pushing it, bro. They should have got the fuck out of there multiple times.
If you were scared, take 2 steps back. And the thing is,
I do want to mention, although this is not being reported and it is all hearsay, so I don't want. There are potentially more diabolical aspects to this story. I'm not going to talk about any of them, but it could be even worse, man. So, but I also want to just talk a second about dude's work history, because I know, since we were talking about the institution of police,
the cop,
the cop that killed her, Sean Grayson. So, off the top of my head, he multiple DUIs, a discharge for serious misconduct from the Army.
I've seen that. Yeah,
hired and resigned from 6 different police forces in 4 years prior to being hired as a Sangamon County Sheriff. And as you probably know, and as many of you chatters know, this is the work of the FOP. This is 100% their doing, and their influence that, when someone does fuck up super bad, they get a resignation, so it's like, and then they just bounce around. And I'm actually friends with some amazing women in Chicago who just used to be friends. I lived in Chicago for about a decade, and some friends of mine there are a part of the Invisible Institute. Are you familiar with them?
No.
They track like police killings, and they are an amazing nonprofit, the Invisible Institute. Actually, I have a call set up with them on Thursday if anyone in chat wants to be on a Zoom with them and learn about their database and wants to get involved or whatever. But they won a couple of Pulitzers last year for reporting on police murders and horrible shit. So they did that. They were the first news agency to file all the FOIAs and get the full work history and get people on the record saying they aren't going to go on the record, or they had a couple people talk about it. And, basically the information that we have is he had a lot of fuck ups, and they're just starting to trickle out what the fuck ups were. But one of them that was just reported on was that when he was at the jail in Logan County, which is just north of Springfield, Sangamon County, he did something inappropriate and was trying to view a female inmate during a strip search. And she filed the complaint. What was his response? Her partner at the time, boyfriend, also happened to be in county jail. This cop, Sean Grayson, went to the man who was in jail and started talking shit. I heard your girl filed a police report. Some other guy bailed her out. He's probably fucking her right now, blah, blah, blah. Like, and did he get disciplined for that? No. The Logan County Sheriff suggested more training. They just suggested more training, no discipline. So I want to say all these infractions he had, all these fuck ups he had, 0 actual discipline actions were taken. Not paid leave, not forced to do this, nothing. It was just slap on the wrist, more training. And who even fucking knows if he underwent more training? My guess is no.
Well, it could be a online course on being nice in the workplace,
regardless,
right? And it's like, yeah, exactly.
Clearly
like
not effective.
You click through a thing for 10 minutes, and then hey, he's retrained. Get him out there to murder people.
Yeah, and so when it comes to him being hired at the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, guess what? His fiance, her father or grandfather was a 20+ year sergeant at the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, and reportedly pulled some strings to get him the job. So the corruption runs hella deep. And he was involved in some shady shit too that isn't never been reported on. Never.
Yeah, and
where he got assaulted by someone, a mentally ill person in the community, this cop, and the dude went missing because he had a mental illness. It's not as bad as it sounds yet, but the cop made it. This 60-year-old police sergeant posted on Facebook, well, he's a piece of shit, so whatever happens to him happens. But like, yeah, so the rot in this family runs so fucking deep. They are hogs if I ever knew them, and just really disgusting. But yeah, the FOP, last thing I'll say, the most recent news that came out yesterday, I believe, the fucking FOP filed a grievance lawsuit with the Sangamon County over wrongful termination and grievances and, back pay, get him his job back. Fucking disgusting. So and really, that, and I've been telling people from the jump, like, I want to flip the county board. I want to, help support progressive candidates or maybe even run myself. I want to flip, city council or the mayor, whatever. But when we're talking about these bigger beasts, like, people don't even know what the FOP is. Like, a lot of even my fellow activists and organizers might not even have known what that is. But they are, as many people on this chat know, like the big bad beasts. Like they're one of the most powerful organizations in the world. So how do you even take that on?
That is such a deep thing. And this is where talking with like organizers out in LA over their sheriff's department with got multiple gangs, actual like fucking.
No, I saw that.
Yeah, gangs and everything. Best way to understand it in my eyes is this is a mob. This is a legalized mafia organization where violence and threats are utilized to keep this whole security apparatus going, right?
Yeah.
And there's multiple elected officials in LA that were saying they were getting targeted by cops, right? They just make a statement saying the LA sheriffs shouldn't have murdered this person, and the next thing you know, there's the car, right? There's the cruiser sitting down at the end of their street 24/7. And this is something that they do everywhere. This is something where as much as people want to believe, hey, these people are here for our safety, none of us, white or black or whatever, not one of us are ever safe from becoming any of these victims of state violence, because once they feel threatened.
Dude, I got tailed twice by sheriffs the week of the protests.
Yeah.
And I have like a decent, like my car, there's no like damage on my car, no bullshit. And I wasn't driving responsibly.
They know who you are.
One was right after I talked shit to that cop in the gas station. So, but like you said, even white people, we're not safe either. So the more we recognize how this affects all of us, the sooner we can make change, or the more effective we can be, or the more united we can be when we confront something like the FOP. Yeah,
with this and people actually realizing how deep the rot goes, it really is like the statement of, if one of us ain't safe, none of us are safe. It does hold true. And there's sometimes where there will be an indiscriminate murder of cops against a white guy. And the response from some of, people is, well, where's the Black Lives Matter for this? It was like, no, why aren't you just organizing to march in the streets for the person who is more, like, why are you just angry, right? Like, if they're in your, like, why are you doing it? And it's going outside of just like, like, this is a policing problem. This is a community issue that needs to be solved by removing the legalized gang.
100%. And I mean, if anyone that watched that footage, I mean, how could you watch that and not say, oh, if any other person, a plumber, an electrician, but especially a mental health professional arriving on scene would have handled that a little bit better probably, and not done a racist murder in her kitchen. Like, so man, it is just truly, the response that we have for, I need help. Well, let me call the racist thugs. Well, it's not our choice, but like that being the institution that we have to serve us is horrible. So yeah, it needs to change.
Honestly, the easiest thing was she was already sitting down. Just turn off the stove. Like, cop, cop, just
Marcus. It seems like a racist premeditated murder, man. Like,
it's hard. Like, I mean, that's
I don't know if you saw that she was, anxious and not doing well or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, her family has talked about her mental health state, but I don't want to talk about that at all because I think it's irrelevant to his. But I do think that maybe it did play a role on some evil shit as far as maybe him thinking, oh, this could be the one I get away with.
Exactly. I mean, and that's where I'm not going to say anything to disagree with what you just said at all, because it is just so fucking horrific. If there's any usefulness of me being fucking suckered into the military is knowing like there's a million different ways that if you are taught basic de-escalation, like none of this shit happens. So many of these things do not happen, and the fact that they do, they get away with it. They can get paid. They switch. I mean, the guy that killed the kid in at Cleveland, Tamir Rice. Right, he got there's another police department that was about to hire him like in some other state, and literally like, without the like groundswell of like, are you fucking kidding me? You're gonna get a child murderer.
Dude, a colleague of mine is an activist here. I'm not gonna say his name, but he got contacted by fucking Anonymous 2 or 3 years ago, the hacker organization, because they knew there was a Nazi on our Springfield Police Department. And they had all sorts of proof, documentation, him in all these groups and being hella bold.
Yeah.
And so they got his ass up out of there. So like, I mean, it's not just one police department. And you know, I'll hear people just to try to find common ground when they're like, well, not all cops are bad. You know, okay, great. Well, if you think you know some great cops, they can keep their job for now. You know, we can see. You know, like I'm not. If you know they're great, okay. You know, have them. You know, they'll keep their jobs for now, but we're coming for 10, 20, 30% budget cuts to the city, the county police budgets, because it's by far and away, as with every fucking American city, the biggest part of the budget. And our infrastructure is shit, our schools, I don't want to call them shit. I love all our teachers.
Underfunded. They are underfunded, undersupported.
It's just, you know, you know, and I personally, you know, I got hella frustrated years ago and started a community garden, but like, so that's where my head's at. Give me 0.1% of the police budget and I'll build 10 community gardens. You know, like we can actually make Springfield way doper. We don't need to just, you know, keep paying these dudes. Like, I don't know. And that's where, you know, someone had the gall to say to me, he's a firefighter actually, and saw my post, local firefighter. I said, well, why'd they hire this guy, man? You know, if you know, and he said, oh, well, I know the county was hurting for guys. Okay, sounds like they need their fucking budget cuts then. You know, because what the fuck are we talking about? They're hurting for guys. Like, so they hire this motherfucker and that's okay? Or like, no, they just needed some workforce. Like, get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little emotional.
No, you can't just give anybody a fucking gun because you need to fill a role on a roster, right? It's like such an insane thing, right? This ends up being a murder temp agency. We're just like, what are you talking about here? We just need to fill a spot.
Yeah. And then you got the FOP that just protects and moves them around, shuffles them around, moves them around. And the Merit Board and the Illinois Sheriff's Association, all these fucking groups, man.
When it comes to the FOP, this is where it does become a national and international project where 100%. Like on DC, talked about this before, where DC has the congressional schedule. And week by week, there's different focuses whenever they're in session, right? And then there's a week where it's security week, right? And there's like a lot of military, veterans, and fraternal order of police. And there are whole umbrella organizations of all of the big state fraternal order of police, or, you know, and they all come to DC and they lobby and they do all the same shit that any other corporation or any like lobbying group, you know what I'm saying? They all have that same attachment to power and to be able to flex it like the oil and gas lobby.
And where do they get their money, Marcus? From fucking taxpayers, man. Like, and that's another angle. That's another angle, you know, as we talk about trying to get through to people or shifting public consciousness. Say you're a fucking cold-hearted bastard. Okay, you're a cold-hearted bastard and you don't really give a fuck what happened. are you happy that your tax dollars are being used to pay this family out the settlement because of this fucking dipshit racist cop?
Yeah, and this is like for sure your fucking money, okay? Like the federal government, they can debt spend. The cops, that's your
it's right out
money.
of the county coffers. Yeah,
that's your fucking money, no doubt. There's no debt spending, no nothing. That's your fucking cash.
Exactly. So that is something that, you know, I'm always, I hate to even fucking use like pragmatism and like fucking centrist language sometimes and shit, but I really, I'm in a position to do that sometimes where it's either fucking do that or say nothing. So, or just like blow up at people and push them further into their fucking little shit pigeonhole or whatever.
Which,
you know, so.
I think this might even be a good time to like get into, you know, your family history, you know, because I think it's a very good juxtaposition. And I do even like wonder if you could describe of like when you're growing up, or you're like, does your family, do you like identify with and celebrate, or you know, do you know?
Yeah, those are great questions, and you know, shamefully, no, they didn't. It was so, but not intentionally at all, truly, because here's the story. My grandfather was a doctor in Decatur, Illinois, and when he retired, spent his entire retirement going to cemeteries and county courthouses and shit all along the East Coast, America, whatever, piecing together our family history. It was his like life project. And so my dad as a kid was kind of getting dragged there. Instead of going to the beach, he was at a cemetery. And so my dad, you know, he was like not fucking with it.
There's
an adult,
there's like goth kids all over the world that are like jealous of your dad's upbringing, but
exactly. He was melded in the darkness. But he was just turned off by the whole family history thing, but he kept my grandfather's shit, right? So I was like 24 or 25 years old. I'm 35 now. So a little over a decade ago, I was just like bored digging through family stuff, pictures, books, whatever. And I found that. And I was like, John Brown, like the abolitionist. And sure enough, there was like pictures and all sorts of shit. And I went to my dad and I was like, you know, were we related to John Brown, the abolitionist? And he was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like, I'm like, bro, what the fuck? And, you know, my family, God bless them, they're all good-hearted, amazing people, but they're like most people we know, pacified by, you know, society. They've got, you know, the things they need or whatever, and you know, they're not doing great, but they're doing good enough to where they're not, you know, super politically, socially conscious, whatever. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it wasn't something that they ever identified with. But me, I was always a little bit of a black sheep and kind of fucked my school up and did a non-traditional lifestyle leading up to that. Yeah. So when I found that out, it really kind of affirmed my spirit a little bit. It was like, you know, not that I was about to go behead people with bastard swords, but I was like, okay, like,
you're still
feel
young.
The fire in you.
You're still young.
Chill. Come on, Marcus. I know you're trying to keep the stream going, man. Come on.
Them's jokes, Doug. Doug, FBI guy. Shh, it's just a joke. It's a John Brown joke. It
really was a special moment for me to like connect my own kind of the feelings I had underlying of, you know, I did not like how society was structured, and I did not like, you know, as we say,
this is where
Applebee's and jalapeno poppers and like, you know, just the culture we've created is dog shit. And I saw that from a young age, and I was like, what are we doing? You know?
Part of me does wonder if like there is like this generational thing. We're kind of close in age, but at the end of the day, my parents, and they're, you know, even as immigrants, and I talk to them now, and they're like, yo, like the vibe is really shifted around this motherfucker. And there was a time when, you know, people were able to kind of get by a little bit easier. Politics wasn't so, you know, like the multiple crashes of the financial systems, you know what I'm saying? Like millennials, we've been ran through the dirt.
Yeah. So no, that is a very profound point for sure. I 100% agree. And
so is there anybody else in your family in your generation that actually does kind of like buy in some too, or is it just mostly?
Yeah. Totally. No.
Okay.
Once, especially they saw how I embraced it. They, you know, of course they embrace it. And my brother lives not far from you, probably. He lives up Northern Virginia, and we've been to Harper's Ferry with his kids and shit.
Oh, word.
Know, so like we fully embraced it, and the kids even liked it because, you know, we took like a tour, and the tour guy was asking questions, and I was like, you know, I knew every answer already and shit, you know, and so my niece and nephews are like, why does Uncle Evan know everything? And, you know, like, this is our family they're talking about, you know, so just getting the young, beautiful, smiling white children to know that your ancestor was kind of a badass. Like, he was a folk hero. Yeah. So getting them to, and what's even funnier is one of my nephews' name is Owen, which they didn't know at the time when they named him, but that was one of John Brown's son's name too. So yeah, there is like there is a sense of pride with our family for sure. I would say I am for sure carrying the torch, and it is something that's like I don't talk about a lot, and I wasn't even sure if I wanted to talk about it today, but I knew that this community was like, if there's any place where people would fuck with that, it is here.
No, and that's where I do think is very important. I think that I appreciate is like just the understanding that the spirit of John Brown does not necessarily align with the actions of John Brown when, in the communities that we exist in now. And it doesn't mean that there isn't even, to say, extreme actions people need to take, but how do we fight and win in this time period, with the revolutionary spirit of, and that's where it was like, just, that's a tough thing, and I'm just a guy that talks online. Like I pretending that I'm, some revolutionary or something like that. It's kind of disrespectful. But also too, it's like we have to figure out ways to actually be convincing and to engage in our communities. And, it was just a different time.
Yeah. I mean, let's just talk about like it was a lot more feasible that you would go be violent against, a force of people. We didn't have militarized police. We didn't have the legacy of 150 plus years since then of hundreds of trillions of dollars, probably billions, whatever, trillions of dollars being invested into the militarization of the police. Which,
and the propaganda of saying who's wrong, who's right, destroying and erasing history.
Dude, John Brown was hung for treason. Yeah. Like he was the first person in America hung for treason. So and who captured him? Robert E. Lee. So you got to think about who are, over time have been the people standing on each side of this. But to go back to what you said as far as the spirit. I think me personally, I'll just talk about myself. I think that I have embraced John Brown's spirit combined maybe with a little bit of the words and teachings of Dr. King, of Fred Hampton, of people that came after him that were smart as fuck. Probably smarter, I would say, and they had a lot more subtlety and just thought behind what they were saying. I feel like, and especially as Black men and the eras that they grew up in, and of course they were both fucking killed, right? But trying to combine that spirit with a little bit of nonviolence and the lessons we've learned since then, and the reality of what we're up against. I don't want to be a martyr. I don't want to go. I've been to jail. I'm not going to go back if there's anything I can, So I years ago decided, I need to put this radical spirit, energy, whatever, into something. So that's when I started my community garden. It's I'm a little over 2 years now, and it's very informal right now. It's basically I'm learning how to farm. My other grandpa was a farmer, so I'm basically just taking those skills of growing food. There's a terrible food desert here in a neighborhood on the east side of Springfield. Like I said, extremely segregated, but it is the lowest income, lowest education level neighborhood in our county. So I had access to a 2.5 acre property there where I just started growing hella food. And, I give it out to volunteers. I give it out to the neighbors, whatever. Right now, it's all informal, but I will be naming it the John Brown Community Garden. So I am infusing that radical.
Have you got the rights to call it that? Is there is that?
Man, I wish somebody would, man. Hassan, come on, Hassan selling John Brown gun club shirts. Come on, man.
And actually, and that's where I just I spoke with someone from the Elm Fork John Brown Gun Club.
I know of them.
And it was all around responding to conservatives and fascists that are harassing drag shows, and and they would just either step out in the line. Is that something that's okay, well, hey, at least his name is living on somewhere or another? I don't know if maybe I shouldn't have brought this. Yeah.
What you're trying to ask nicely is do I get pissed off when people co-opt his name for profit?
Well, yeah, and that's where I mean, like, that's where it's like I don't know if they're like profiting off of it or just like using the name as like a but like
sure. Honestly, who am I to gatekeep John Brown's name? I'm one of, I'm sure, dozens, hundreds of descendants of his. So like, I'm not in a position to gatekeep his name and his legacy. But I do think, as long as people are honoring his spirit. But I do, what we were just talking about is the balance between his approach and martyring yourself versus, maybe some people that were a little smarter. I do actually, encourage people who are really embracing his spirit to, check out some of what Fred Hampton had to say. Check out what, Dr. King and these other leaders, even Frederick Douglass, who was John Brown's friend, but disagreed with him on his kind of ways he went about things. I think it's valid to read criticisms. Don't read like Abe Lincoln's criticisms, fuck him. But as far as like other people that were about that life, I feel like it's good to study them and what they had to say and try to balance that radical spirit. And, because really none of you are going to go behead a sheriff with a bastard sword. None of you. And none of you, I mean, if you were to, I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. But I do think that, the reality is, what are we really about? What are we really trying to do?
I have to say it's illegal.
It is illegal to do that.
It is
I'm not encouraging anyone to do that and don't do that. But
it's legal.
If you were,
it's illegal.
Crazy. That's crazy and illegal.
Crazy, dog.
That would be
crazy,
really crazy.
Illegal. Insane, illegal thing to do.
Sorry, Marcus.
No, goddamn Browns. You know what I'm saying? They come out here and do some wild shit. I do appreciate, it seems that you're dealing with, even the name of some figure that you are a descendant of, coming at that with grace and understanding. I mean, this is where all that was lost and taken away from whatever can be described as the left or liberatory organizations throughout the history on this continent or any other. Grace has to be at the heart of that, and understand that people in your community aren't ready to completely defund the police, and that other people might take up a name and try and and that's where it's like, as I'm wearing a Black Panthers hoodie, there's like a Black History Museum that was selling them, and it's dope. It's hella comfortable, but like at the end of the day, what is it for? And at least they're continuing to teach it, so I don't feel bad. It's like whatever, but at the end of the day, how much are we actually engaging in these ideas and trying to actually put them into the community garden, and taking what you have and just trying to do more is an incredible thing. There are some people who I really would like to introduce you with, and like we could all do this offline, but like,
Thank you
for being who you are. Really, the heart of everything that you're doing has nothing to do with a guy who, beheaded slavers. As dope as that is,
totally.
You're Evan, and you're organizing. And right now, I appreciate you bringing a whole lot of information about what happened to Sonya Massey, the center. Really, like what this is all about. I appreciate you being out there with the organizers, uplifting the organization. I appreciate the work you're doing. I don't know what to say.
Let me just do a favor by saying, as Shaq could probably say, you are like my morning. I don't play bingo, but I'm here every morning, and I just really appreciate what you do, and having me on, and just the vulnerability you share with us as viewers, as Chad, as people who want to support you. So yeah, it really does mean a lot for you to see me like that. And this is totally breaking the fourth wall for me. But I want to come on and hopefully honor Sonya and her family. I've gotten to know her cousins and her family, just being at the rallies and, taking pictures and, sharing them with the family instead of posting them online, little stuff like that. Just to show people that I care, and I'm not here to, and no one fucking knows I'm related to John Brown. Like, I'm not out there at the rallies, hey, do you know I'm related to John Brown? You know?
Have you ever tried the beard? Have you ever tried going with the big fuzzy beard, or
the beard bag? I'm not growing the beard bag. No. But I appreciate you seeing me. I appreciate what you do in this community, and Stephanie for recognizing what I was doing online, and it's really important to me that Sonya's family gets justice to the fullest extent, not just with this cop, but like her legacy could be one of those keystone legacies that, we can look back at and say, wow, that was really a moment in which we really changed some shit.
I did want to ask if you could go through some of the orgs that you're part of, I know, like Black Lives Matter Springfield, but Intricate Minds, you'd mentioned that earlier. Can you just talk about like what they do?
Yeah, I would say our most visible and important and powerful organizer on this specific front has been Tiara Standage of Intricate Minds. She has been at the front of a lot of protests and organizing movements here, but there, all the groups you mentioned are great. But yeah, I do want to give Tiara a special shout out. And her shop is like a almost like a community center. She does free haircuts on Monday. There's a lot of homeless interaction, feeding people. There's food pantry. She does like artist showcase with like local younger musicians and stuff there. So it's a spot here in Springfield that she's had bounced around a couple times and has not been received greatly by our local leaders because of the work she's doing. And, people don't like homeless people. So, when you try to help them, sometimes, things can get weird, but she's doing an amazing job and I want to put, uplift her. And yeah, Sharina and, the women with Black Lives Matter Springfield have also been, they've been really important leading the calls for nonviolence and leading, because that would just ruin. I mean, I'm not going to police anyone's actions, and everything is justified for sure. But at the same time, if we are about making progress and we are about changing the public perception, nonviolence is the key to that. And so they've been huge with like how we're going to democratically organize. And there's just been, some amazing orgs. And I think, anyone that's listening to this locally, Springfield, Central Illinois, Chicago, even St. Louis, Indianapolis, if anyone wants to, get connected with any orgs, hit me up. I have direct contacts and, I'm friends and work with these people. So yeah. And I'm a videographer, photographer by trade. So that's been kind of I've been contributing in that way too. I'm using my voice, of course, but I've been just trying to document a little bit. And I just want to also mention that I am setting up a call with some of our local organizers and the Invisible Institute out of Chicago this coming Thursday. So if anyone listening wants to just be a part of that or listen in and just, you can message me here on Twitch or Discord or whatever.
Any plans to make it for the DNC in Chicago?
I don't.
Your most famous, your loved streamer. I'm going to be showing up.
If you're going and you say you would love to see me, then I will go.
I've been thinking about the DNC for months now.
Yeah.
Really the encampment is what said the DNC is going to be a moment. I think for the next few weeks, doing what we can to start pressing in social media, in our, organizing and talks with like the community about making sure Gaza is the focus going into this. It is these same forces that murdered Sonia that are dropping bombs on Palestinians. And
exactly.
That's where things get real fucking scary, is seeing that whole fucking line. But
I'll gladly come up there, and like I said, I'm a professional video photo guy, so like I have nice camera and sound equipment and all this stuff. So if you wanted to do some interviews or something up there, I'd love to chat more with you and Stephanie, whoever, whatever. But I'm totally flexible on my schedule, and would love to come up and make the most of that for sure.
I didn't plan it, okay? But hey, this is how you organize online, all right? That just happened, okay? Yeah. You just let people know, invite them out. What can you do? Fantastic. See you at the DNC for your community garden. I say it every day. I feel like I focus on like electoral politics as my infotainment, but there are things that we could do, these actions we could take every day that are going to mean more, because a full belly is more important than a vote, period. You can't eat a vote. You can't pay rent with a vote.
Materialism.
And so I appreciate what you're doing in the community, like just being engaged and all the things you're doing, because I mean, fuck, man, like John Evan Brown. No. That's my motherfucker. Honestly, really, really dope talking with you.
I have therapy, so I need to go soon. But
no, yeah. Word.
Yeah, my therapist is amazing too. She's amazing, and I'm going out to her house for a session. So
word.
I should leave soon, but man, I love talking with you. I could sit here and talk and try to, anything I can do to rally more support for Sonya and her family. And I did share like the GoFundMe link and all like some of the news clippings and stuff with you and Steph.
I do have kind of just even like a side thing of like, have you been engaged in like any historical societies or anything like that, as far as like them interviewing you or like getting in touch?
Nah, No, they don't uplift John Brown's legacy really anywhere. It's just kind of like he did it. He got hung for treason.
Yeah.
You know, like he's a folk hero for sure. But as far as like him being celebrated by even city governments, whatever, even at Harper's Ferry, he kind of terrorized that community. So like, it's no monument to John Brown. It's like, it's like very much like a AP reading of what happened.
Yeah. Oh, so, that is unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
It is, but I hope that by naming the garden that I'm doing John Brown, I can start to slide this radical spirit into people's brains subconsciously, maybe even. So yeah, I think that day will probably come. Like I said, it's not really a thing I do, like talking about it a lot or pushing it.
This is where like I'm just a nerd wondering about like if there's any like academic authors or anything like that who've like really done in-depth studies, but if you're saying, it's kind of few and far between, but we do have
an amazing historical preservation society here. So maybe I'll mention to them that I'm related and see if we can do some stuff about John Brown and Abe Lincoln. Cause I know Abe was one of his most vocal critics.
And just because I've seen this shit, is that if you're related and like they prove the lineage, they just allow you to see and get hands-on and stuff.
Really?
If you are related to historical figures,
I have the documentation. Yeah,
it'll be a local news thing, but you might be able to see and interact with some of that history a little bit more. When I was a staffer, I've been involved in this type of shit where a family member, old person that did something, and then it's just like, they get the hookup because it's their family.
Cool. I appreciate you telling me that.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man.
This is my bureaucracy nerd. This is who I am, actually.
We all got to wear different hats. When you said, I fully think that, what you do and what even bigger streamers do is radical and is super, super needed. And dude, I mean, even Marcus, your stream, I have friends who are over, sometimes just like co-working or hanging out, and I'll have you on in the background, and they love it, and they love Marvin Cease Jr. They love they might have never known who that was, but they Hey. So what you're doing is super important and valid to me in my life, and I hope that it continues to grow, and we can have more conversations about how to keep changing the world in all our own ways.
Yeah. Hey, and I thank you so much. I do just think of it as this is my job. I go into work, and like anybody else that's got a job, you got people counting on you, and it's nice to get the positive feedback from the boss. But no, I appreciate.
Yeah, man. Cool, Marcus. Well, thank you again, man. If there's nothing else, I'll head to therapy.
Yeah. No, appreciate your time, and we'll definitely talk more about us meeting up in Chicago, but then all the other things, getting that community garden really cooking with gas, because I think I know some people who might be able to hook you up. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you. And one last thing, I'll go ahead and drop a message in the LFV Discord right now too, if anyone wants to be connected directly to any of the orgs or is in around the area and doesn't want to have to go through Marcus. You can just hit me up directly in the Discord.
Go into the Discord. Right.
No,
it's a dead end.
I know. Hey, come on, man. He's working hard enough, chat. Come on, man.
All right. Well, hey, you have a good day, and thank you so much again, Evan. You have a good one.
Much love, Marcus, and thanks again, Stephanie, too.
Peace.